improving the performance of the 6th Gen Camaro by upgrading to the BMR Upper Control Arms. Let's get this thing installed. Welcome everyone to the Derpzilla channel, and for today I will be upgrading to the BMR Upper Control Arms right here on my workbench. We're going to be upgrading from the relatively pretty good OEM Alpha chassis Camaro upper control arm, as you can see here, with this kind of a doughy rubber bushing. And you know, this piece isn't horrible. I've seen much worse on an OEM car. The Camaro is known for having quite good handling, but like anything, you can upgrade it with an aftermarket option. I went with the BMR. This is part 5 of my BMR suspension upgrade video series. It's been about a month since I did my last one. I've been doing about 1,000 different projects. I wanted to jump back and hopefully get this car back on the road. It's been way too long sitting here on my quick jack in the garage. So we're gonna go and jump back into these. Hopefully I can get this whole process done soon. But as you can see here, I have one of the BMR upper control arms. They actually have 3 variations. This is the fixed non-adjustable one. Goes for about $130 from BMR. You can probably get cheaper in other locations and suppliers. And you pretty much, this is it. You get this solid, I think it's 1.5 inches of box steel CNC. You got the polyurethane bushing, super cool grease fitting. So you're gonna have to make sure you grease this bad boy once it's installed. And yeah, pretty solid, pretty stout. It's pretty much a set it and forget it. You install it, and other than, you know, greasing the fittings on occasion, you're pretty much good to go. You don't have to really worry about it. Usually, typically not as noisy as the multiple adjustable options, but for the people who are tracking the car, you know, relatively frequently, need to do rapid alignment changes, they do offer 2 more options. You have the off-car adjustable, which is pretty much just another piece. I think it's on this side or the side. I can't remember. I don't have a photo of it. But what you do is you actually can adjust right here and pretty much lengthen your control arm based on whatever kind of suspension alignment you're trying to dial in. And then they have the on-car adjustable, which I believe has adjustable pieces, maybe on both ends, I can't remember, but the cost is about $100 more than the non-adjustable. But the cool thing about that is you can have it on the car, fully adjustable, and you can really dial in that alignment to exactly how you want it. For me, I had a fully adjustable suspension on my previous car, a Subaru WRX, and I adjusted it once. When I installed it, never did it again. It's a little noisier. I want to go with something a little bit more, probably more solid, a little bit more durable, and just get this thing installed and not have to worry about it. Because as you noticed, it took me about a month to get this video out from my last one. I got a lot of things going on, and worrying about having to get this thing adjusted all the time, just something I didn't want to do. Anyways, we got the car over here. We're going to take a look at what it looks like already installed in the car, what it looks like before you install it. I actually have it installed on the other side already. Then we're going to go ahead and go over what we need for the installation. Super easy. 2 bolts, 18 millimeter. Yeah, not bad. So let's go ahead and get over to the car. I'll show you what we're looking at, and let's get this thing installed. Here we are. This is my driver's side, and the one remaining OEM part, which is right here, is the factory upper control arm. And if you can see here, there is a brake line that attaches to the side of your upper control arm. So make sure you remove that during the installation process. You don't want to rip your brake line off while working on your car. And the thing about the BMR piece, it does not have a fitting for an upper, on the upper control arm for your brake line. So I'll show you what we need to do. Pretty much just zip tie, you know, zip tie fixes everything. So let's look at what it looks like once it's installed, which I have over here on the passenger side. And there you go. Notice hopefully I get some good lighting in here. Yeah, kind of hard to see. Sorry about that. But anyways, we have the BMR upper control arm here. I got a zip tie, actually another zip tie. So 3 zip ties holding my brake line in a relatively pretty good position out of the way. You don't want to rip that brake line. And notice the angle or position of your grease fittings will be on the top. Make sure you do not install this upside down. That would not be good. For this install, very few tools are actually needed. You're going to need a 22 millimeter socket, preferably the soft touch ones here that have this little plastic sleeve. and that's to actually remove the wheel off your car. Now, of course, if you're following through the whole series and you already have the wheel off, well, you don't need this for this one, but you'll need it to put the wheel back on once you're done with all of your suspension upgrades. You're gonna need an 18mm socket. You'll probably want a little assortment of different sizes, a couple different ratchets. You're gonna want a grease gun of some sort. I have this fancy Hercules one from Harbor Freight, but of course a hand pump one works fine. This has the Super Lube grease that I'm gonna be using to grease the grease fitting on the upper control arm. And of course, you're gonna want a torque wrench so you can dial in your torque settings for your installation. And if you are hardcore like myself, new bolts and nuts, they are torque to yield. Technically, you're not supposed to be reusing these. Many people do. The torque values are gonna be slightly different if you're reusing them, but they do stretch every time you torque these, and potentially could be a point of failure. BMR says they've done, numerous testing, haven't had any fail on them, but I went with this whole suspension series. I'm replacing every bolt that's torque to yield. I figure for a few dollars, why not? But for the bolts, you're gonna need a 11610908, and you're gonna need 11610909, and then the nuts, which is 11516078. I'll have, of course, links in the description for all of these and everything that you need, and a link to the BMR upper control arm and all that fun stuff. BMR does offer a very handy PDF install instructions that you can download and print if you so choose. Now, they've had some questionable data on their torque values that they've changed a few times depending on when you downloaded this. I actually did get an email from them a while back with all the actual torque values. These should be the most up-to-date ones, so I'll be going off of this. For this actual install, it looks like they do match, which is good, but I've had previous ones where these wasn't matching this, so it got a little confusing. But as mentioned, you're gonna, of course, need a jack. You need your 18mm socket, drive ratchet 3/8 or 1/2 inch, whatever you can fit in there. There's pretty decent room, so we shouldn't have too much clearance issues. Maybe the inner is a little bit less clearance, with the inner. Of course, it mentions inner and outer. Outer is going to be outside portion of your vehicle, so closer to where the wheel would be. Inner will be inside, closer to the inside center line of the vehicle. So make sure you don't mix up your bolts, and you put the inner where the inner goes, outer where the outer goes, and because they are slightly different in length. Probably hard to see, but there is a slight difference in length on these two bolts. Very, very minor, and yeah, so don't mix these up. I mean, it probably won't be the end of the world, but you never know. Anyways, for torque values, we have 50 foot-pounds. We have the upper control arm, inner and outer. It is 52 foot-pounds, so don't get mixed up by newton meters here. It's 52 foot-pound plus 105 degrees. That's that torque to yield value that you're actually stretching that bolt. So you're gonna actually torque it to 52 foot-pounds, and then you're gonna mark it. I'll show you that process, and then you're gonna actually twist that bolt another 105 degrees. That actually gets us the actual torque value on. I don't know why they didn't just. It'd be nice if they could just say 80 foot-pound or something, whatever it would actually be if you add the 105. It just is an extra layer of complexity, but it is what it is. And then, of course, we have BMR did put down the values if you are not replacing your bolt, and they just say go to 70 foot-pounds, and then that's it. Stop there, 70 foot-pounds. So yeah, super easy process. Remove the outer bolt and nut, remove the inner bolt and nut, pull the OEM unit out, put the new one in, and look classy doing it. As I am doing the non-adjustable upper control arm, there's a couple steps that you're not going to see here or in this specific install guide. But if you are doing the adjustable or on a car adjustable, the process is pretty much the same, other than you're going to want to line up your adjustable upper control arm with the OEM piece that you removed, and then you're going to tighten it down. The instructions will say, show exactly what you need to do, but most likely there's going to be a bolt, and the bolt you're going to loosen out. You're going to actually be able to adjust the length of this, put like a screwdriver or a thin metal rod between each set of bolt holes, and then you're going to adjust your BMR piece so that it's a complete smooth. You can slide the you need your steel rod between the bolt holes smoothly. That means you're the same height. You're gonna then tighten it down, lock it in place, and that's gonna be your starting point. You go ahead and get it installed, then you can make your alignment adjustments either at the alignment shop or if you have some fancy alignment gear at your garage. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that real quick so you can actually follow this video, get everything installed, and still install all 3 variations of pretty much any upper control arm for the 6-chin Camaro Alpha chassis. At the rear of the car, I have the outer bolt and nut and the inner bolt and nut here. I'm gonna go ahead and get these removed and get this OEM upper control arm off of the car. Be sure to remove the brake line clip here from the upper control arm. You can use a simple tool like one of these clip release tools. You're just gonna wedge it in there and it just pops right out. Just make sure you don't break it if you do want to, return to stock at some point. And you want to retain your clip. Removing the inner. And it appears I forgot one of the clips. So don't forget there's also a clip on the bottom front, I guess outer portion of the control arm. See if I can get this pop off. It's just as easy as the other one. There we go. And we have the OEM control arm. Upper control arm that I just pulled off the car next to the BMR upper control arm that will be going onto the car. And I just wanted to show a quick side-by-side, even though we kind of did earlier. And you can just see, how much more stout this is. It's a little bit heavier. I mean, it's maybe 25% heavier. You can definitely tell the bushing difference here. This thing is, the typical cheap rubber bushing on many cars. And this is, of course, the polyurethane one. Grease fitting, no grease fitting, so it comes out the factory, and if you get anything degrading this, you can't really maintain longevity. And of course, you do notice we have here is the attachment point for your brake line, and I believe this is the other one right here. And on the BMR one, there's nothing. So that'd be cool if they would have welded on maybe some tabs, so you could have just had the clip just reclip on to the upper control arms, but no big deal. We'll just go with the zip tie method, which works for just about anything. Now, of course, this is just some stamped steel. This is, of course, the 1 1/2 inch box steel CNC cut, and beautiful powder coating on here. Should be very durable, should resist rust for long periods of time as long as you maintain it. And yeah, so this is just a quick side-by-side. So you can see the construction differences here. Of course, the bottom. Very nice. Of course, with BMR, you go with their, I guess it's called like a hammer tone black or the red. I went with red because, the interior of my car has got red accents. I got some other red accents, and red just looks good. I mean, 5 horsepower extra just from going with red. At least that's what I was told. If you want, you can remove these little clip pieces here that sit on the brake line on these little barrels. I figured removing these will be one less thing kind of clattering around with your zip tie job when you zip tie this to the upper control arm. So I figured I remove these. I just use a screwdriver and kind of pry them off, try not to break them. They turned out, they should be reusable. If not, no biggie. But if you want to save those, go ahead and remove those if you don't want to maybe potentially hear that flopping around a little bit. Not a big deal. Anyways, I have the BMR upper control arm, this beautiful piece here, and it is going to go in pretty much like this, grease fitting on the top and on the inside of the car. If you want to make sure to clean up the attachment point here. So wipe this down, make sure it's nice and clean, because if you have any grime and rocks and stuff, it's going to grind into this polyurethane bushing and potentially damage it. So you don't want to, rapidly accelerate the damage to the upper control arm and, reduce the life expectancy of this piece. Now we're just going to pretty much just slide this in, and it's going to be a tighter fit because it is slightly bigger, and then it should just drop into place because it is the same size. I mean, and this is the probably easiest of these three components as far as fitting goes, but it should mostly line up. You're probably gonna have to maybe, use the old screwdriver and wedge trick and kind of move stuff around, but it looks like it mostly lines up. I have to pull it out a little bit, but once I get this lined up, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the bolts in. Remember, inner, I believe this is the 09 bolt, which is the slightly longer one, and the outer, which is the 08. Now, the bolt for the inner is going to be going in this way, so you want the bolt head to be on this side and the nut on the inside. This side probably doesn't matter, so you probably just want to return to the same direction as what it was when you removed the bolt and the OEM part. It may help to use one of these non-marring hammers to kind of tap this bad boy into place, get these holes lined up. That's what worked for me, at least on the outer. And from my memory, the bolt for the outer is going to be traveling from the back towards the front. So bolt head is going to be on the back portion. And see if we can get this to line up. Just a little bit of love. And we got the outer bolt in place. I'll go ahead and put this nut on here. Of course, I'm not going to tighten it up. And I still need to do the inner. I got the inner bolt kind of started a little bit worse of an angle here. I'm trying to get it to feed through. No real good room for hammer. So you might just need to kind of give it a little feel and then try to drive it through. I was able to get the bolt in place. I ended up using this Hercules power tool here, torque, and I was able to get it close enough where the threads caught, and I was able to then pull the bolts all the way in place. Now I just need to get the nut installed. So I almost royally effed this install up. I was beginning to torque everything and forgot to put my suspension under load. And technically, car should be on the ground, wheels on. That's fully fully loaded suspension, but can't really access your bolt to do that. So I mean, for me, this is the next best thing. Get a jack underneath the wheel or the rotor with some padding or something like a rubber piece right here, and begin jacking up the side of the car that you're working on. So for me, of course, it's the rear driver's side. And then I keep lifting until my quick jack blocks here become loose, which means the weight of the car is now on the suspension and I can proceed. So now I'm going to torque all of these two bolts, 52 foot-pounds, 105 degrees of additional rotation. And yeah, I'll show you that. You'll see the suspension down on the ground because I actually did all of that with the car not loaded. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all that stuff again, but watch that. You'll notice that the wheels up, is drooping, not up. That part's incorrect, but the whole procedure for torquing everything and applying the torque to yield is correct. So we'll jump back after I've done this correctly and fix my own mistake. And it's very easy to lose track, so make sure you stay on point. Torque wrench is ready to go, dialed into 52 foot-pounds. I have a 1/2 inch here, but I have a 3/8 inch in the wing just in case I have some clearance issues with this. And I'm going to start with the outer, and we'll go ahead and torque this up. Looks like I already got it at 52 foot-pounds. Now we can do the torque to yield. We're at the outer bolt head right here, and we're going to do our torque to yield process. And pretty much you're going to need something like a Sharpie or a paint pen, because we're going to have to actually mark on the bolt and on the actual component that it's bolted to. And we need to do 105 degrees. So for these kind of bolts right here, I'm not going for super accurate. If I'm off plus minus 5 degrees or so, it should be fine. But they do sell like specific measurement tools you can dial in here, and actually will show your exact degree. But you know, I figure with plus minus 5 degrees should be fine. And I like to pick a starting point that I can easily see, and then an ending point that I can easily see that's 105 degrees. So I'll go with, let's say, this point right here. If you can see that, 90 degrees on this type of bolt should be right here. So from here to here, that's 90. So a little further is 105. So typically, I would say this point right here, so 2 points past, should be about 105 degrees. So I'll mark on the actual component, that marking here. So we'll say about there. And then we, of course, want to mark on the bolt itself where you can see with a socket over it. But we'll do both spots. We'll do one here, and then we'll do, let's say, here. And so we're going to take this line, and we're going to get it to line up with this line right here. So 105 degrees. The big key with this is do not let your wrench move while you're applying this extra torque, because, of course, if the bolt is, you know, the nut is moving with the bolt, it's going to throw off this reading. So if you use a paint pen, let this dry. Go ahead and get a socket on here and a breaker bar or something, because it's going to be, it's kind of a workout. Just giving you a heads up. I'll do this one on camera. The other one I'll do off camera. And then we can go ahead and get this attached and the fitting greased. And here you can see my marking on the bolt lined up with marking on the upper control arm. Went past just a little bit, just account for it in case this wrench did slide a little bit, but pretty close. So we're 105 degrees, torque to yield, past 52 foot-pounds. A little out of breath because it's kind of an upper body workout, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the slightly more difficult one in the back. 105 degrees is complete on both bolts, so everything should be torqued down as it should. Okay, a little bit of time travel there. I initially torqued the bolts with the suspension not under load, removed the bolts, replaced them with new bolts. Thankfully, I bought extras and loaded the suspension, as mentioned earlier. Got everything torqued, torque to yield, all that fun stuff, redone. So if you're wondering why the location of this rotor is moving around, that's why. Anyways, we're back to where I was before I realized my mistake. And I've attached my zip ties here. Now, I have one here, two in the back, and I just have it placed so it's in front of this little barrel piece on the brake line, and then around the barrel piece here, one on each end, to keep the zip ties from sliding around and repositioning. So this should be good. It's not super tight. Hercules grease gun, super crappy fitting that does not like to come back off. So if you have a normal grease gun, you know, the pump action ones, I think it said 4 to 5 pumps to probably lubricate. This one I just kind of run it pretty slow until I see a little bit oozing back out, call it good. All looking pretty sexy in there. Car is back, free hanging the suspension, so no longer under load. And yeah, overall, 2 bolts, not too bad. A little grease fitting. So a little bit of grease came back out, so maybe I overfilled it just a tad when I let the suspension back down, so I'm gonna have to wipe that up. But overall, not too bad. So go ahead and wrap this one up. That concludes the installation of the BMR upper control arm on the 6th gen Camaro, specifically my 2021 Camaro ZL1. Overall, pretty easy installation. Just make sure you don't lose track. So I apologize for kind of jumping around after discovering my mistake with loading the suspension before torquing the bolt. So make sure you do not forget that. Make sure you load the suspension before you torque the bolts, or it's gonna throw off some of your performance. You're going to bind up your bushing, and it's just not good to do that, not having it under load when torquing everything. So don't do that. Anyways, made myself some extra work, hopefully less work for you guys. Anyways, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like this video or any of my other videos. Check those out as well. I have some more BMR suspension videos coming soon. Hopefully next will be the BMR tow rods, followed by the sway bars and links. Hoping to get those out sometime next few weeks. I'm going on a short vacation sometime in the near future, so that may delay some of the videos. Some other stuff coming as well, some new stuff coming to the store. So check that out, Zilla.com, Z1LLA.com/shop if you want to go specifically to the shop, or check out my Etsy page. I'll have links floating up here somewhere and also in the description below. Always have coupon codes for anybody who is watching this video. That will be in the description as well. Feel free to thumbs up the video, hit the little bell, notification, all that fun stuff. And hopefully, guys, we'll check you out on the next video. Anyways, have a good one. Peace.